welcome to the Catholic Dad Show. This is the second episode in the Catholic Dads of Genius series, where we talk to dads from various walks of life and explore how God is inspiring and living in them.
My name is Matt Rice.
And I am Chris Bartlett, and we're a couple of Catholic dads that are trying to let God change the world in the way that we live out our call to fatherhood. Today we're joined by another one of Matt's friends. You'll find out during this series that Matt is very popular. He has a lot of actually amazing friends, and this is one of his closest friends he's been journeying with for quite some time. Tell us how you know David and your context of journeying together.
It's funny because at least once a year. So this is part of our group of friends that we've known for a really long time, at least 10 years. And at least once a year, we try to sit around and say, how did we meet? We've known each other for that long that it's I'm not really sure, when it was that we met or how it was that we met, but we think it has to do with our daughters. So my 12-year-old, Trinity, is the same age as their 12-year-old, Katie, and their friends. And we think that was kind of the beginning of the friendship, but we've been super close friends for a really long time. Living life together, doing the whole parenthood thing together. And it's a real blessing to have friendships like that. If you don't have friends like this, you need friends like this.
Yeah, and specifically the Catholic parenthood thing together. And
yes.
And in regards to context, I have a variety of friends. You have a variety of friends. Yay. But there's a smaller subset of friends that you can be irreverent around, or friends that you don't have to clean your house for when they come over. Yep. This is the type of friend, David is the type of friend in your life where he could knock twice, open the door and say, "Are the Rices home?" And someone would just shout, "Yeah." And then he'd just come. He doesn't even need a, "Yeah, come on in."
He doesn't even knock.
He doesn't even knock. He just comes on in. And that's the type of community. If you don't have a friend like this, you need a friend like this or a circle of friends like this. There's other friends that we have where it's okay, everybody, this family is coming over. Let's pick up our toys and things like that. And this one, it's you guys are going to break some toys together. We know this coming in, but we're going to have a blast. Let's lose time together on Sunday afternoon spinning it together. That's the type of friend David is with you. And that's exciting. He's such a good friend with you that he recognizes that your relationship with me, right? And we've journeyed a little bit together, but your relationship with me is one that's a little bit playful. So when I met him, I think the first time, he gave me a hard time because he knows that that's how you and I interact. And that's really cool to see that he felt comfortable enough with your guys' friendship to just dive right into a friendship with me. So I've always really appreciated David and some of the joy he brings me.
It doesn't hurt that we've been podcasting or putting out some, episode once a week for 2 or 3 years. And I think David's listened to almost everything. So he feels like he knows you regardless. But yes, there's no doubt that the friendship that you and I have and his and I's friendship definitely impacts that for sure.
Yeah.
But you listen to somebody for long enough and you're like, I know them, and they're but they don't know you.
So we've been bragging on David here for a couple of minutes, and I just want to say that I think sometimes people don't recognize their own value, right?
Yes.
And that's really how he started out the interview. You guys are going to see it in just a few minutes, but that interview, he said one challenge he has as a dad is knowing that he's enough.
Yep.
I think about that all the time. And Matt, you and I both have master's degree in theology, right? In regards to it, but am I enough to share God's love? I don't even know if I'm enough to share God's love with randos, with people I'm called to minister to. But of course we're called to minister to our own family, but am I enough to really share God's love with my children? Because they see me in angry dad mode. They see me when I'm sad or when I'm frustrated. And sometimes I feel like I have to be on a stage or on a theater to be okay, kids, now let's go to love Jesus. And they're I just saw Dad not do a Jesus thing,
Yeah, and I think it's funny because even I don't know. So we talk about David, a normal dad, not a ministry dad, worrying or having to remind himself that he has enough because it's ordained. He's ordained by God to do what he's called to do.
Right.
But I have a feeling that sometimes quote unquote normal dads, look at ministry dads and think, oh, those ministry dads, they never doubt. they feel like they must think they must be very confident, in their fatherhood. And it's maybe just this much more, but we still have doubts. We still wrestle with the same exact stuff. that they wrestle with.
And there's something beautiful about leaning into our calling of fatherhood, even when we feel insufficient.
Yep.
And
I hope
think
that in this recording, I hope Taylor keeps in the part where David's like, it feels really weird to look at a camera. Because like, honestly, David's personality, in the past, I know like over 2 years ago, there's no way that I would have gotten him in front of a camera.
Sure.
He would not have said yes. He just wouldn't do it. And even around this, he gave me a little bit of a hard time at the beginning, like he was going to say no. And I actually have like 2 or 3 other men that I want in this series that are saying no right now. And it's like, why? And a lot of it I think is confidence. Like, I don't have what it takes, that kind of thing. I'm so glad that David got over that and that you guys get to meet him.
And you'll see that there is definitely a humble spirit about David when he's sharing. He's like, do you really want to hear this? And I think there's a beauty in iron sharpening iron, in a way that you want a humble friend to be able to journey with you. You don't want some prideful person to be like, well, I read this latest book by Father Larry Richard, and he says you're doing everything wrong as a father. Like, you want someone to be like, oh, that's an interesting perspective. Can I share mine? And that's really David's approach.
Yep.
So we're going to jump into the video now, let you guys watch it, and we'll be back with you in just a moment.
See you soon. Hey guys, Matt Rice here with one of my best friends of 10 years, David Harris. David, who are you?
David Harris. Like what?
Like, what do you do for a living? What have you done for a living? How many kids you got? I assume you're married. You're a Catholic dad, so you're on this show for a reason.
I'm married. I've been married to Jennifer for almost 19 years.
All right.
I have 4 kids, 2 girls, 2 boys. I currently an audiovisual low voltage company. I've been doing something in technology for about the last 10, 11 years. And before that, I ran a bunch of restaurants.
Yeah, little known fact, because of David's life in the restaurant world, he is our family chef.
Very true.
Whenever David, or our families get together, David's the one in the kitchen. None of the wives. Like, nobody else other than David.
It's a break.
Yeah. A break for you?
Break for the other wives. My wife gets a break every day.
All right, so let's get into some of the questions. So, what is the biggest challenge you've faced as a Catholic dad?
For me, I think it's, one, knowing I'm good enough as it is, but 2, really staying on task with it. I know my ultimate goal is to get my kids into heaven and have my kids live a Catholic or Christian life lifelong, but being the instigator in those things. So being consistent with it from the beginning. Actually, I'm a convert, so about 4 or 5 years after we got married, right before we had our first kid, I converted to Catholicism, and it was right after that my wife said, we're going to church. We're going every week. And so that has never been our issue of being there, but engaging in it. With kids were little, we had 4 and 4 years. That was difficult. And it's the engaging with the Mass, engaging with the youth groups and stuff like that, that is probably, that's probably it, I would say.
You had 4 in 4 years, and I had 6 in... Oh my gosh, I gotta do math real quick.
15 years.
No, Levi's 17, so 13 years.
13 years.
6 and 13 years. You did it better. Condense that whole parenthood thing.
Yes. It's gonna end quickly.
Yeah. You're just going boom, 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 boom.
Yes.
You're done. And I will still be there.
Yes.
For years to come.
I'll be telling you what a good grandfather you are when your youngest is in high school.
So you said the biggest challenge is staying consistent with that.
Right.
Yeah. What do you mean by that?
There's plenty of times in my own faith where I'll go through the motions of it. We prayed the rosary for a long time together as a family. Stopped doing that. We did kind of a devotional book every day. We've been doing that pretty good for a year. We tried to Bible in a year with them. We're pretty consistent with nightly prayers all together. We were really consistent about teaching them to pray at each meal. It's just that overall engagement of not just enough to what I would call comply with the Catholic faith or just faith with Jesus, period. It's really engaging in a relationship, and I think that's that would be
Yeah.
what I meant by
Doing more than just check the box.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. You said something else though at the very beginning that I think is key. Like what's the hardest thing? And you said knowing that I have what it takes. Kind of was what you said. Knowing that I can do this. That's hard to know that.
It is, because I don't feel sufficient enough.
Yeah. Yep.
But knowing that just my position to my children as their dad puts me in that position with them, and it's hard to remember, but it's something I catch a glimpse of with you and Seth and my brother and other Catholic men that I am around, that you have that impact even in the slightest. So it's remembering that is hard.
Yeah, remembering that, like, regardless of whether or not you choose to, God's giving you enough. Like, you've got the grace because of the position He's given you. Yeah. That's a good reminder, I think, every single day.
Yeah. It's awkward. I feel like I'm just staring at the camera.
Well, you're staring at all the people on YouTube.
All right.
Say hi, David.
Hi.
I'm sure there's a David out there.
Okay.
All right. So the next one you chose was, who inspires you as a dad and why?
This is kind of where I try to look at not one individual ever.
Okay.
So when it comes to life lessons about motivation, about exercise, about diet, it is everything. So I take pieces of your fatherhood. Yep. I take pieces of Seth Sullivan's, my brother's example. I take a lot from my dad, mainly because my dad does inspire me in his general fatherhood. Okay. There's nothing specific my dad did that I was like, wow, he's just such a hero and such a perfect role model. But it's all of it together. So I take the pieces where I find inspiration myself. Okay. So everybody has shortcomings.
Oh, yeah.
And I very much look at those as well and say, that's definitely something I don't want to do. And I... So
you're negative inspiration.
Yeah,
it's also inspiration.
Oh, absolutely. I see the way parents talk to their children, the just pure tone of voice, and I go, gosh, I hope I never do that. Yeah. I see just overall patience. My brother would be one. It's just this general patience with his children has created such a good discipline with them as well that it's inspiring. Yeah. And then my dad's just overall acceptance of kind of everything. I've never felt judged by my own father. Yeah. I, without a doubt, know my dad loves me. His faith life isn't something I would say was inspirational. Sure. But I know it's in there. He's just never been forward about it. Yeah. So it's all of that put together. So I can't really say there's one person where I'm like, I want to be that guy. Yeah. I definitely want to find the parts that, the best parts of everybody. Yeah. Yeah.
And you mentioned a few, which is great. Yeah. Awesome. So last question that we ask every dad. Okay. Is if you were able to give your younger self, and I don't know if you want to think like pre-married or early marriage or whatever, some advice, what advice would you give your younger self?
What? Yeah. How early? Yeah. Go?
Which mistake do I want to catch?
Yeah. How long is this show? Yeah. What advice would I give myself? I think it would be to engage early, to find the passions I've found in my life now are ones that are lifelong. Yeah. And that I will do these things forever. And I wasn't always involved with them. Yeah. And I wish I had taken care of myself better earlier. Yeah. To where I'm not fighting so hard to take care of myself. And that's from faith to finances to my physical shape to my family shape to my friendships. Yeah. I did not invest in really any of those. And now that I guess it's age, I know how important they are, and I wish I had seen that importance earlier. Yeah.
For those of y'all that don't know, how much did you used to weigh, David?
344 pounds.
344 pounds. Yeah. 2 years ago on the ski slope,
yeah,
he thought he was going to die. He was 344 pounds and tried to go skiing.
Yeah. I mean, I did okay.
You did. You skied once.
It was that
No, I'm just kidding.
It was that first day when we didn't know how to ski out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we walked out, and I thought I was going to die right there. And your wife talked me off the cliff and was like, "You just can't breathe because we're at 11,000 feet." And I'm like, "Okay." And then my kids, who had never skied, got on their skis, and I'm like, "I'm going to show them how to ski. I got to catch my breath." And they took off.
They were gone.
They were gone. And I was like, "Y'all go with them. I got it. I'm fine." And I went down. And right before you get on to the actual mountain, we're on like an access trail or something.
Something like that, yeah. Cross-country trail.
I fell and I saw stars. I couldn't breathe. I might have blacked out. I can't really tell if I did. But I laid there on my back looking up. The world was spinning. And the worst thought of my kids finding my cold dead body, my fat cold dead body.
Yeah, and that's like one of the things you said is like, I'm going to die because I'm fat.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Like fat is going to kill me.
Yeah, being that obese was going to kill me.
Yeah.
And it would have, for sure.
Yeah. And so since then, you've
Since then,
dropped a lot.
Yes. I've lost, as of today, I've lost 125 pounds.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's in great shape. But that's the kind of thing you're talking about is the fitness and other areas of your life. You wish you had taken initiative earlier.
Yeah, and I think that's the kind of this journey of losing weight has actually been the one that opened up to learning how to eat correctly, because the way I ate it was in front of me. I ate it. Now it's just being very aware of what I put in my body, how much I put in my body, and it's the same for how much sleep am I getting, how much time am I spending with my friends, how much time and focused energy am I spending with my kids, how much time am I spending with Christ, and just paying attention to everything, doing it all, because even in the diet and the weight loss, you can't just do one thing. It has to be everything, and that was the focus that's kind of really what I meant.
Yeah. So telling your younger self, take initiative early.
Yeah.
I like it. Awesome.
Okay.
Well, thanks for being with us, Dave.
All right. Sure.
Enjoyed it.
All right. Good.
He really likes this.
I know.
He wants to be on camera more.
Yeah, I'm going to stay here for a while.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Awesome, guys. Welcome back, Matt. Thanks for taking time to journey with David in that way. That was absolutely beautiful.
I always have like you guys act like, I mean, maybe you guys think that the way that I treat Chris on this podcast is all that different from how I treat everybody that I know. But I love having fun with my friends and poking at them a little bit. And even though it was a little bit like there's a little bit more of a purpose to me sitting down next to David, there's still giving him a hard time. There's still challenging him.
There's still laughter. There's still joy. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that's beautiful. Even in the midst of suffering, I think that we can still put smiles on each other's faces, and I think that's important. But just to go deep real quick, because he just shared it, I thought it was profound when he said, "I'm going to die because I'm fat." Right?
Yes. Yep.
And I just wrote a note down like, I'm going to die because fill in the blank.
Yes.
Like when we hear that, like, what is it that when you finish that sentence, I'm going to die because, what does that mean? What does that share? Because I know some of us are hiding addiction. Some of us are hiding negative habits. Some of us are hiding like resentment.
Yeah.
Like we just experienced this thing where I was resenting this person for something that happened years ago, and I bumped into the relative of that person just last week. I told you this at lunch.
Yeah, I remember this. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, and I told the story, and I was like, I resented this person so much. And I bumped into the person. I'm like, how's this person doing? And they're like, oh, they died of cancer about 2.5 years ago.
And you were carrying this resentment like
and
2 years after,
I was carrying this resentment,
this person
for like
died.
2.5 years afterwards, right? And so it's like, I'm going to die because of that resentment, like that burden. Like I didn't have to carry that burden. I didn't have to carry that burden at all, but I certainly didn't have to carry that burden 2.5 years after they had passed.
Yeah,
and so
absolutely.
We're in a situation where we really need to examine our lives, and that statement really examined. He knew he needed to make a lifestyle change.
Yep.
And so I know there's a number of men that are listening, a ton of Catholic dads out there that struggle with almost like a secret life with pornography, alcohol, addiction to some area. Some of us in regards to shame or areas of feeling inadequate and things like that, to where we don't step into that role because we're afraid to lead the family because we don't feel worthy or qualified. And I don't want your family to die because of that. I don't want your soul, eternal death can happen.
That's what I was going to segue into. So we were talking about that. He was talking about his physical body. But what about spiritual death? And that's terrifying, because sometimes that's a death that we don't even recognize happening, because we're so focused on the physical world. We're so focused on, I don't know, financial stability and different things like that we don't pay enough attention to our soul. We don't pay enough attention to the spiritual life. And that spiritual death can kind of, I don't know, sneak in there.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Well, you and I have worked in youth ministry for a number of years, and we have met parents that are like, I don't know about heaven, but I'm going to get my kid into college.
Yeah.
Right. You see the priorities happen to where all these things get kind of misconstrued, and we make an idol of things that are going to pass away.
Yeah.
Your kid's GPA is going to pass away. And then I've seen other parents where their kids are in crisis mode, and they're like, I don't care if my kid makes it to graduation. I just want them to make it through the week without going to jail. Yeah. And there's all these different priorities that kind of shift. And I want to be a dad. I'm a why not both guy, but if I had to choose, I'd rather get my kids to heaven than get them into college. Yep. But why not both? I believe that God desires our kids to thrive in all aspects and things of that nature. But our priorities can shift the way that they live after they're in our homes, even though our fatherhood never ceases. And that question was haunting.
And that whole idea of start sooner, take initiative sooner. Mm-hmm. In all areas. I really liked how he said that, how he laid that out. The advice that he would give him, the younger self: take initiative sooner. Don't wait until you're on that mountaintop, breathing what could be your last breath, So, before you make and take initiative and start changing something now.
Yeah. So that world was spinning when he was on that ski slope.
Yep.
Literally smack on that ski slope. Right?
Oh yeah, he was laid on his back.
He was laying out, and the world was spinning. And I think that happened to my dad. Just to share a little testimony, when I went to college, right? And so my dad, all in all, was a great dad, right? But there was a season where a number of different things happened to where we didn't spend as much time together, and I think he started regretting it, especially when I went to college. And I came home from college one year, and he had to fix a toilet. And he's like, come over here, I'll show you how to fix a toilet. I'm like, I don't need to know how to fix a toilet. Like, I've already figured out that if I need to do something, because I'd been, I'm in my early 20s at this point. If I needed something, what would you do? Well, in my early 20s, you go on YouTube and you figure it out, right? And so back in the day, it used to be you always had to know someone who was handy and stuff like that. Now all I have to do is know a URL and you could figure it out. And so I kind of resisted it and was like, no, I want to go spend time with my friends and things like that. And my mom pulled me aside and said, he's trying to make up for lost time. Yep. Like he's trying to do this because he didn't do some of these things when you were younger. And so I went and I learned how to fix a toilet. It was great. It was really neat. But it kind of felt like if you were running a marathon, but you didn't know that you were running a marathon until like an hour after the marathon started. And my dad's like, we got to do all these things during your break to catch up, which is where his advice of
you walked the first half of the marathon and now you've got to sprint to the last half.
I didn't even know that we were doing a marathon. And so he's like dragging me, like we got to catch up. The marathon's going to end soon, like making up for lost time. And that's where engaging early or getting on that right path early on to where it feels like this is the natural flow. Me leading family prayer as a Catholic dad should be the natural process in the life of my kids. It's a lot harder when you're like, hey, I know you're a junior in high school, but now in the midst of everything else that's going on, we're going to try and add this habit into your life.
Yeah.
But if they're going through it ever since first, second grade.
I've seen it. I've seen parents try to do that at a later stage and it falls apart. It's like the ground has been laid. Everything, like the bed has been made, man. You got to lay in it, that kind of thing. But not really. I mean, you absolutely should still try. But the dads that are listening that have young kids at home who are this is prime time for you to take that initiative and start setting those foundations right now. Don't wait until later because you're going to have to play catch up, and playing catch up on that level of things, even like David trying to play catch up and lose 115 pounds in 2 years. That was a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I know that he would have rather kept it off for that whole time than had to lose it in a year.
So the fabric of your family is really woven over time. And if you don't have threads of spirituality or spiritual leadership or spending time with your kids, those type of things are really hard to weave in once that fabric or once that bed has been made. And so that was really good advice. The other piece I really appreciated, and this goes back just a little bit earlier, is he actually took pieces of he doesn't have a specific dad that inspired him. He had almost a greatest hits album of dads.
Yeah.
Like Matt, your leadership here, and then my own dad, this aspect here, and Seth over here. And I thought that was really neat.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. I thought that was really neat to go ahead and survey. And I think there's a lot of grace, because I mentioned a story about my dad, and I said there was a time, but like, honestly, a lot of my fatherhood, like the good aspects of my fatherhood, come from my dad, because I saw him do so many great things.
Absolutely.
Was he perfect? No, he was not perfect. But there were so many good things to be able to say, you know what? I'm going to take the best 5 things here, 2 things here, and 1 thing over here from these 3 different dads, and really build it to keep your eyes out for moments, to be inspired.
Yeah. And I liked how he listed out a specific thing about each one, because he knows specifically, what about this man or what about that man do I want to emulate? It wasn't just some general, and that's one of the things I was worried about when he first started answering it. I was like, is it just going to be a general, I take something from all men? And it's like, I get that. But no, he did exactly what I wanted him to do and pinpoint some specific things about different men in his life. And that's good, for us to see those things. And when you were talking about learning from our dads, I think it's interesting, because as you were talking, I thought about this, and rarely does anyone see a bad habit and intentionally emulate it.
Right.
Now there is, I don't know if it's subconscious, unconscious, or whatever, but there's some things that we pick up without intending to pick them up.
Sure.
And that's how we pick up bad habits. I honestly, like from our dads, we pick up bad habits unintentionally. But I think most of us, we look at the things that our dad does and that we admire, and we say, I want to do that. I want to be that. The way my dad treats people in public is one of those, like, it's almost a Geico commercial, like cheesy, hey, the guy in the hardware store doesn't need to know your name, but that's my dad, and he calls them by name, and asks them how their day is and stuff like that. And I love that about my dad.
Right.
He's always been very much like, this is a real person, and they need to be treated with dignity. And if everybody else is a jerk to them all day, at least they had me.
Right.
To make their day just a little bit better. Like, one person they interacted with at least today was not a jerk.
Just so long as he doesn't ask them about their tattoos.
That's you. You're not allowed to do that.
I know. I give people talking too much, and then they overshare, and then it takes us a lot longer to get our food. So this is a waiter waitress type of situation. Yeah, I agree. I think finding the good, and here's like a pro tip, right? So I guess avoiding the millstone today would be, don't go it alone.
Yes.
Right. Even if you can't find a perfect dad, because St. Joseph has already passed on, right? You can't find a perfect dad, but don't go it alone, and grab the best tidbits. But this comes with our tip of the week, right? And so share this like David did. He was able to say, you have this aspect and you have this aspect, and affirm them. Even if you don't affirm the men in particular, affirm those men to your wife. Like, this man really inspires me in this area.
Yeah.
And by the way, he wants to take me golfing on Saturday. Oh, yeah, you'll grow in this virtue if you go golfing with him. Go. You know what I mean? Like, there's something amazing about iron sharpening iron, and sharing that, so that it's not just, oh, you want to go hang out with those guys because you're going to be away from us. Like, actually, I want you to spend time with those men because they make you better. And that doesn't happen if we can't see it and name it and honestly share it with our wife. So we're not just in the role of being good husbands, good fathers, good spouses. We're also in the role of sales here. And so we need to sell our wives on letting us know that this is a good thing that we spend time with these men.
Yeah. These men are good influences on my life. And I'm trying to emulate the best parts of them. And so I want to spend some time with them. And it may seem weird for a man to say that, but I think that's okay. Like, I think it's actually a good thing. Right.
Remember when we were kids and we would go knock on the door and say, hey, is David home? Yeah. Can he come out and play?
Yeah.
And you were just so insecure, hoping that the answer would be yes. Like, now that's with our wives. Hey, Doug's in town. can I go play with them? You know what I mean? Like it is. And so if we're like, actually, Doug helps make me a better man. And we've prayed together. We've journeyed together. We're going to go to daily mass and then we're going to go do this. Is that cool? Like, can I take some time away? And I recognize that it'd be a sacrifice on your part, sweetheart, but I'll come back a better husband because of it. Yeah.
Another thing that I wanted to highlight about, David's interview, we talked about it a little bit at the beginning, was that the whole idea that, he has, like, one of the hardest things about being a Catholic father is reminding himself that God has ordained this, that God is giving him the grace to be the dad, to the souls that he's entrusted to him.
Yeah.
And so he has to keep convincing himself that he's good enough, for that. And maybe not that he's good enough, but that God is with him. That's the biggest thing, is convincing ourselves and reminding ourselves that God has called us to this, and he's going to give us the graces we need to play our part in it. And even I like the way David said, I forget exactly how he phrased it with regards to his children and getting them to heaven, but to be the instigator, maybe that's what he said, but to help be the initiative of what their lifelong faith is going to look like.
He said really instigator. I made that note. I thought that was profound. Yeah,
I love that. I love that. Like, and that's like, it's not our like when we talked about this previously on another episode, it's not our job to get our kids to heaven, but it's absolutely our job to instigate that. Like,
we can help the first domino fall. Absolutely.
Yeah,
yep.
Yeah. And set that example. And you, like, the dad's watching, like, you have what it takes. Like, God has called you to be in this position. He's going to give you the graces that you need to be the man that you're called to be for your wife and for your kids. And so I'm excited for more men to come to realize that, know that, convince themselves of that.
Awesome. Hey, you guys, we are so glad that you journey with us. We're so glad that you're here. And I know that dads in your life that are like David, that are an inspiration to you. Lean into that this week. That's our challenge. The other challenge is simple: to go ahead and share this with someone, and like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. I know some of you are listening on the podcast as well, so you can subscribe there. And we can't wait. In 2 weeks, we'll have some new content for you.
Yeah, one more challenge too. Just know that you have a gift to share in your masculinity, in your Catholic fatherhood. You have something to share. Don't hide it. It's not going to help anyone by hiding it.
Great. And as many of you already know, that the Catholic Dad Show is a part or an apostolate of Ablaze Ministries, specifically Ablaze Families, where we seek to empower parents through creating community and amazing content. We want you to be a part of our online community. It's called The Village, and it's an online digital community. If you're finding yourself isolated, or there's a poverty of Catholic dads to kind of connect with online, and while you can't go have a beer with them, it's hard to go golfing with them, you can still connect and journey with them, and you can also share your story and inspire others. So we want you to check out The Village. Matt, how do they log into The Village?
Ablaze.us/The Village, and you can sign up there. You can log in from there if you already have an account. Reset your password even. That's a new thing.
Yep.
Which is kind of funny to do that so late. As you were talking about, like, a golf trip, like, one of the things we want to do eventually way down in the future with the Blaze families is in-person things. That might be actually kind of fun, to see if we could at some point in the future pull together a men's golf tournament or something like that through The Village. I know, random thought, but that'd be a lot of fun.
Even if it's skeet shooting, just a ranch and a couple rocking chairs and a cigar, like, let's do it, So,
awesome.
good. Thank you guys for journeying.
Yeah, thanks for joining us this week. We'll see y'all in 2 weeks.